This was, without a doubt, the weirdest episode of Reign of the Seven Spellblades, and weird doesn't have to be an insult. Sometimes people, when they hear certain words like weird, they're like, how dare you insult something I enjoyed? Don't get it twisted, I very much enjoyed this episode, but you can't deny magical wombs and where to find them wasn't a bit weird. But this is what I've been saying and just hammering in week after week. The magic system, the magical world, and just the overall presence of what is magic in this society is so much more interesting than pretty much any other magical series out there. Not even just like anime or movies, like just in general, because the idea of this whole reversey, most authors who would try to tackle something like this would slap a joke of, oh, boy becomes girl or girl becomes boy, and oh, look at the flusteredness, let's dress them up. And while there's elements, like, I mean, look at Katie, like she was literally like, oh, you would look adorable in this. Sure, that is there. But the idea that we start this episode off with Pete pretty much in distress, like you can tell how much pain Pete is in, and we do a little bit of magical curing, which obviously we get a little foreshadowing with Oliver in terms of his mother having to have similar things done when ultimately she was pregnant with him. But what we end up doing is we learn about how, like, okay, you now have a new organ, you have a womb, right? And this honestly acts like a magical pouch, and you need to learn how to, like, extend your mana and put it properly through your body. And while it is funny and weird that it just randomly pops up, you can't deny that it does a hell of a good job at once again flexing why this is such a compelling and magical world compared to so many other shallow shows out there that try similar things but fall flat on their face. Now, I do have a full live reaction to episode 9 of Reign of the Seven Spellblades available on my Patreon, so if you would like to see that, head on over there and consider supporting. We got quite a bit to talk about. This was a weird episode, and not just simply for magical wombs, but I mean, who would have thought the guy of all characters would get porcupined in the ass at one point as they wander the labyrinth, discover a group who apparently just chill down there, hunt the weirdest things and eat it, and then, hey, you know what, how about you get a big bargain on all these nice meats and things you can eat, as then we end the episode with probably one of the most wholesome moments of the show to date, which is kind of like the Sword Roses moment where they all put their blades out, they make this little symbol, and that's their group name. And honestly, you can tell that even had we not seen that Oliver had already killed a teacher, right, we would probably notice in this moment that this is going to come back at some point and probably going to help pull a character maybe away from the darkness. And I imagine at some point, because obviously we haven't really built into the next death or who's the next target, we know the teacher's involved, of course, but in terms of who he's after next, we don't know. But what they're probably trying to do here, especially with some of the glares and maybe some of the remarks that Oliver gave throughout this episode, is that most likely by like maybe the second or third killing that he does, when they start maybe realizing or they start questioning or noticing things that are different with Oliver, and maybe it's harder for him to keep this secret and in the shadows, I really feel like this moment is going to be called back to in terms of like they're in it together, they're here for each other, and maybe it will stop him from completely losing any humanity he might have. But it'll be interesting to see where they go. But this is, without a doubt, a Katie as well as Pete focus episode, and as someone who's literally said Katie was my favorite character since pretty much the show began, and as someone who's been saying the whole Pete angle was really interesting, this was a very good episode for that reason alone. Would I say it was my favorite episode? No. I mean, I definitely was expecting a different episode given how I thought it was dramatic. You know, we end the duel with Oliver and, you know, a new duel starts up. Oh man, this isn't looking good. And next day at school, yeah, there was a duel, but don't worry about it. Okay, wasn't expecting that, but still, the episode, while different than what I was assuming was going to happen, still led me out of this saying, you know what? I'm just as excited for more Spellblades as ever. Like, you can give me a big ass action episode, or you can give me an episode where Pete has to learn how to control his magical womb. I mean, either way, I'm gonna be here for the next one. And really, the best part of this show has always been the magical side of the world, right? And the idea that, you know, for Pete, comes out and tells everyone in terms of the friend group that 100% I am a reversey. Probably would get a little harder to keep that a secret for too long, even if you're using like tape to maybe put the melons a little more compressed in. I mean, it's hard to keep that a secret forever, and especially if he's going through like such issues with like literally, I mean, at first I thought he was just sick, but then Pete was like, you know, dealing with there's so much new mana and things going on within the body. It's interesting to see just how, you know, different everyone interacts with him, but how like they aren't really treating him all that different all at the same time, which you love to see in a friend group like this. But Katie's stuff was interesting, right? Because I like how, you know, we had that crazy moment where you had someone else who she thought was exactly like her demi-human supporter, and, you know, you had this troll ogre creature we just casually cut back and we're like, oh yeah, it's still just sitting in the cage, because that's just how this world is, right? You know, she brings up a number, it's like 820 or something, of how many demi-humans end up getting killed, and for no reason. It's not like it's for anything other than just it happens. And her, you know, her goal of wanting to make almost a safe haven for, like, you know, demi-humans, and just so that something like that isn't just seen as okay, and you know, for any area where, you know, that is happening, she could almost be like a place where she could keep them safe. And I love that about this, because as I keep saying with Katie, they don't just hammer it in that she's this goody two-shoes, everyone deserves equal rights. Like, everyone should think that already. But ultimately, the way they're exploring her character is she is an incredibly adorable, nice girl, but the idea that she is going against a system that's been in place for so long that she is 100% an outcast. And in her lifetime, she probably won't change the mass opinion. Like, it might not even be her kids completely doing it. It might be her kids' like, you know, her great-great-grandkids for all we know. But I like how they're exploring it, because it does a really good job of characterization someone like her, but also at the same time keeping the focus, which currently is on the whole Reversey plotline, as we have the secret kind of dark plotline in the background with Oliver trying to hunt down these teachers. And as much as I would love to see the next target in action, I do appreciate the fact that they're taking their time bringing up the next one. You can definitely tell they're not rushing through the source material. They're taking their time and they're building into understanding this group, because one of my criticisms within the first episode was like, and I was hoping it would change, and luckily it did, was that while certain characters felt like they had an importance and had a distinguishing personality, characters like Guy at the beginning of the show I didn't really feel too much about. But in episodes where he's the first one to throw a punch for a friend, you start to see who they are deep down inside, and I really have come out to appreciate this group as a whole, which is why I think this was the perfect moment for them to draw their blades, make that symbol, and say, we're here for each other through thick and thin. No matter what, we'll have each other's backs. And by continuously showing new magical systems or just magical groups, like, of course, if you're in a school like this, there's obviously going to be a group that just goes into a dungeon, goes into a labyrinth, hunts some weird things. Some of it looks good, other looks disgusting, but you know what? That would naturally happen in a school like this, especially one that is so okay with students being, you know, mutilated in any given moment, because, we'll patch him up and send him to class the next day like nothing's happened. But like I said, weird episode. Can't deny it, weird episode, but the weirdness is honestly what makes it so memorable, because it actually uses it for more than like a shock value or a one-off joke. Like, the magical womb thing was actually really interesting, and I'm here for more. But let me know your thoughts down below and how you're feeling of Reign of the Seven Spellblades. Let me know. Leave a like if you enjoyed. Subscribe if you're new around here. Of course, ring that bell so you can get notified when I upload more videos to the channel. And like I mentioned, we do have a full live reaction to today's wonderful episode available on my Patreon. And hey, while you're there, you also get a video shout out. So today we have Adam Dunforth, Third Dynasty, Amber, Aloon, and Aldol. So I appreciate the support, everyone. Please take care and have a good one.